Hey guys, so it's the end of 2017, time for me to make my lists of year-end album roundups. Yeah, that kind of thing. So, I'm gonna start this. Actually, it's gonna be a series of videos, it's not just gonna be one video. So, this is kind of like the extra little bits of 2017's album sort of thing that, aren't really going to be the top 10 or honorable mentions, just kind of just some extras. It's always nice to start with the extras, isn't it? Um, First off, I want to list off five albums I have yet to check out. Albums that came out in 2017 that have sort of been on my radar, but I haven't really had an opportunity to give them a listen yet. And I want to start with Angel Vivaldi's Synapse. Now, I've only just recently become a big fan of Angel Vivaldi's music. He does this whenever I start talking.
Talk less.
I recently became a pretty big fan of Angel Vivaldi. Um, his sort of shred sort of style is something I've only really recently grasped onto, and to me, I think he's probably one of the best players in the whole modern shred gent scene out there. And his new album, I've heard a couple of the singles from it, but I know it features Nita Strauss, so that's a big plus. I do need to check that one out, though. I'm really excited to check that one out. Another one that a lot of people that I know have been talking about quite a bit is In Contact by Caligula's Horse. I've never actually really taken the time to check out their music before, so I'm not really too sure what to expect, but I have a feeling it's probably going to be pretty good, going by what many people have told me about Caligula's Horse. Nova Collective, The Further Side. That one interests me because it has Dan from Between the Buried and Me, and I think Richard Henshaw from Haken plays on it as well. Or Ross Jennings. Somebody from Haken plays on it. So you've got a couple of players I'm already a really big fan of, and that's just going to make it that much better. The Deer Hunter, All Is As All Should Be, is the third album on my list of albums I have yet to check out that I'd really like to, but haven't gotten around to. And, Casey Crescenzo is my doppelganger, and I will destroy him at all costs. That being said, he does have the voice of a fucking angel, and the Deer Hunter's music has always been just something to behold. And that's an album I'd really like to check out. David Maximishik, I'm not sure I pronounced that right, Who Bit the Moon, is the fifth and the last of the five albums that I've kind of singled out as albums I haven't heard yet but want to, that came out in 2017. I've heard a couple of the songs off of it. Someone Else's Hat, 687 Days, I think it's called. Absolutely wonderful, sort of modern, progressive, shred gent again. For those who don't know, he's the guitar player from a gent band called Destiny Potato, greatest band name ever. And he's just a phenomenal guitar player. So that brings me to sort of three more albums that are, well, three more points, I guess, that are kind of things that don't really belong in a top 10 list. So I'm going to start by going over the worst album of 2017, the one that left the sourest taste in my mouth. That honor goes to Linkin Park's One More Light. All things considered, rest in peace, Chester. It wasn't a very strong album. It was one of those things where there was this sort of initial shock listening to it, that it was much more offensive on the first listen, and then after a few listens it kind of became a little bit better. It grew on me a little bit, but it wasn't quite to the point where I'd put it among Linkin Park's better albums. And I know there's going to be a lot of people who are probably going to say, you know, they'll probably single it out as me being against electronic music or pop music. Just so you know, my favorite Linkin Park album of all time is A Thousand Suns, probably their least rock album. So the fact that One More Light didn't really do it for me really doesn't have anything to do with an apparent lack of guitar or organic rock instrumentation. I just didn't feel like it was really a Linkin Park album. To me, they just kind of took the band and found a couple of generic songwriters and made a modern pop album. It's not a bad modern pop album, but it's not a very good Linkin Park record. Now, this one also doesn't really belong in any top 10 list or any honorable mentions, but it's kind of the album that I wasn't expecting to like, but that I had the most positive reaction to. That was Nickelback's Feed the Machine. I honestly did not go into reviewing that album for Ultimate Guitar. And for those who don't know, I work as a reviewer for UltimateGuitar.com, so I get a lot of albums coming my way. In fact, I've reviewed most of the albums that are going to be on my top 10 list. The Nickelback one came my way, and I took the review because I thought, well, I like to be rather impartial, and I didn't really plan to hate on the album simply because it was Nickelback, but praise where praise is due, criticism where criticism is due, and I actually found myself really enjoying some of the songs on Feed the Machine. The title track is a great song. There's a lot of really great heavy-hitting guitar riffs. Chad's vocals are inoffensive, as they always are, but, you know, the songwriting is still on point. There's nothing terrible about the album. There's a couple of songs like The Betrayal Act 3 that are downright passable. I mean, I would listen to this unironically on my own. It's a good song. It's a good, solid riff. There's some great guitar work in that song. Even a couple of the lesser kind of tracks from that album weren't all that bad. Coin for the Ferryman, good, solid, rockin' out riff. So, you know, that album, it kind of surprised me in a good way. I wasn't expecting to like it, but here we are. And that will lead me up to the last point, and it's something I like. I started to do last year with my top 10 lists, where I would give off my favorite song title of the year. Last year, that went to Animals as Leaders' Backpfeifengesicht, which is German for a face in need of a good slap. This year, another instrumental guitar act gets that honor, and that is C2A with The Woven Weeb, Anime as Leaders. That comes from his EP Senpai 2, The Noticing, which in itself is a really great album title. And a follow-up to, of course, the Senpai EP. So that's rounding up my first video for 2017's year-end lists. Next, I'm going to have my 10 honorable mentions. It's sort of the top 20 half of the top 10 list. And it's albums that didn't quite make the top 10 list, but that I still highly recommend checking out. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to do that video as soon as I possibly can. And thank you. Finger guns.